Hey, you people also on Facebook and on Zoom, and later on we tell you what the differences is. Welcome to the place online. That is to say, we'll meet each other um, every Tuesday, where we have a little, talk or coaching session, if you want to do that, about a certain topic. And sometimes these topics just come out of Sean's brain, and other times these topics, emerge from a previous session we had. Now, last week we talked about shiny objects. And what are your shiny objects? And one of the participants, or one of the visitors we had on the place last week, ask us, it's like, maybe I don't have immediately a shiny object that takes me off course and off the goal that I want to reach. But what typically hinders me is actually the fact that I don't feel good enough at times, right? And don't we have that all? And I thought, I had that topic actually tabled for a later session. But I thought, what what uh, what often do I actually hear that people say I'm not good enough, which is strange. But then I had to do some soul searching, and say, do I often feel that I'm not good enough, or something that looks very close to that? And then I think, yeah, man, I always look very confident in everything that I do. But then sometimes, last Sunday, Jasmine, who was on the line too, and I had a workshop to do. And then, now not so particularly in this workshop, but sometimes one of the visitors of our workshop, they come in and they look super confident. And I can't help it, but some people have so much charisma. And when you meet them, it's kind of like, you were here, and then someone with a lot of confidence comes here, and suddenly you don't want to do it. Your own confidence level, or your own, insecurity pops up, or your security pops down. We all have that to some extent, right? And if you work in corporate, that could be because your boss walks into the room, and it could be very intimidating, and you are so confident in what you want to tell, and then suddenly he walks in, and you feel that you have to deliver your message slightly different. So I definitely have that. Sometimes I have that when I teach dance, and I'm very confident when I teach dance. If you ever been in my dance class, and then suddenly in my workshops, um, a top dancer walks in. So a few years ago, I was invited in Hogeveen. That's a place in the Netherlands, where I was teaching, and I had to do a workshop on mental strength. Now, well, that's right in my wheelhouse. I was all pumped up, and walked into this room, and there was this awesome teacher at work, which I looked with full admiration at, and it was maybe he's listening on live. It was you, Luca Baracci, right? This is one of my one-time and all-time uh, big ballroom dancer. And I'm a Latin dancer, but I have some ballroom heroes too. And he was there teaching, and I was of course impressed. I was, and and when he was done teaching, he walked at me and said, "Hey, Jean," I said, we didn't really met. I said, "No, no, but I know you." He said, "Yeah, I heard about your workshop. So are you okay if I sit in?" I said, "Yes, Mr. Luca Baracci. I don't know how many times Blackpool and world champion. Why not? Please go sit down and listen to my talk." Of course, right? So yeah, I got a little bit nervous there, right? And his at that time partner, also a very established and esteemed a Latin dancer, came in, and she said, "Hey, oh, if Luca's going to see it, then maybe I can sit down too and watch your workshop." Great. And then 5 minutes later, and maybe she's online too. So Julie Fryer, I think 3 or 4 times world champion Latin, came in, and I know her a little bit better. So maybe less impressed, but she also decided to watch. So I had this, super top people in my field. It could be in your field too. And yes, my confidence level went a little bit down. I had to repeat myself, just do what you need to do. But I could easily translate that into am I good enough, or is my work good enough to measure up to what those people do? I had that in my mind, right? And so yes, I'm a mental coach, but does that mean that I do that? And most of you probably can relate to that in any form or fashion. Anything that you learn new, and then the first time that you go out with it, in front of an audience, you probably only ask yourself, am I prepared enough? That's a good question. But if there is someone in the room that kind of measure you, and then you might think, am I good enough? And the other person might not even think that. But sometimes we think the other person thinks that we are not good enough, and that's even worse, right? So specifically, if you work in areas where competition is high, competitive dancing is always a good example, but could be anyone, right? Could be anything. Now, um, on the flip side, there was a time, it's a long time ago, so I don't put too much value on it. I was a pretty awesome martial artist, and I had some titles to defend. And if I came to a tournament, there were always two things that could happen. There were always young guys who came at you and say, I'm more than you, I'm better than you, Jean, and I'm going to beat you to pulp today. So they had this, they pumped themselves up. But I also stepped in the ring, very often, where I could see that people, they just had enormous respect of my name and reputation. And because of that, they were more nervous than they needed to be. So it could work also in your favor, right, in that kind of arena, where maybe you have uh, a position of authority, or assumed authority, and so sometimes you make someone else a little bit more nervous. Now, I always think that if you can do anything to mitigate or take a little bit of that nervousness away, so it's not good to not feel good enough compared to someone else, right? But it's also not good the other way around. If you give an I don't know what the correct term is, but if you have the attitude and you could possess, and you could, project that really strong that you are better than someone else, and it could be arrogant, you actually do something to someone else that we are talking about right now. Does that make sense? So we don't often talk about these things. And I read a lot this coming week about, articles about, what people do when they don't feel good enough. I always do that to prepare, by the way. But I never saw actually the flip side of it. What do I do so that other people don't feel good enough in my when in my surrounding when I walk in the room, right? Now, Jean has in some areas great energy and power because I feel very confident in it. I feel loose about it. And sometimes when it's someone is completely new in that area and has to do the same thing too, I might be too arrogant. And I noticed in myself that I have that too. Gosh, I didn't even know that, right? And so I used to always like to, in a classroom, in a ballroom classroom with my students, I always like to dance with my students, right? But what I didn't notice till we talk about it with some colleagues, actually, that by doing that, I could actually make the fellow students, the male students, feel a little bit less because they cannot do the same as their teacher does. And therefore, I thought I was giving them a good example, but maybe I actually say, oh man, I would never be good enough or never as good as that person is. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit on a tangent, but not quite, actually, to be honest, because from there I started to see, okay, there is a balance. There are enough situations where I make people feeling not good enough, and then what are the situations that I don't feel good enough? So let's look a little bit at the letter. Let's look a little bit at that part where I don't feel good enough and where that's coming from, right? And in the end of this talk, I will give you guys a few tips how you can get out of it. But the first part, and that's also a little bit less talked about, is actually way more important than the tips that I can give you how you feel good enough, right? Let me see where I have my notes. If you just allow me a little bit to look to the left, my left might be looking for you to the right, right. And there are a couple of things that we need to be, as always, to analyze these things that I do. We also have to be super honest to ourselves, right? Now, here is the thing. I have a couple of questions for you, right? So write them down if you want to. But are you ever feel angry about someone else's success? You know, do you feel someone, and it doesn't immediately have to win a championship. So say you're in a workshop or you say in a work environment and someone else did something really good and other people give that person a compliment. And do you then feel something like, maybe jealousy, maybe angriness inside of you? And if not now, did that happen to you in the past? Be very honest about it. I have no judgment whether the answer is yes or no, but I will be very honest but what my answers are to these questions. And my answer was unfortunately yes. Yes, I noticed in myself that I am sometimes jealous on someone's success. And that I sometimes think, why her or why he? Why is it? I mean, look at him. I kind of, have that. And so, okay, let's continue a little bit. Do I sometimes, feel embarrassed or ashamed because I didn't succeed or I didn't achieve more, or maybe because I made a mistake? Well, the answer for me, unfortunately, I didn't score so well, by the way, on my own questions. The answer, unfortunately, here was again, yes, I am sometimes a little bit embarrassed. And I feel sometimes ashamed that I, did not. And worse, actually worse, in the past, I tried to cover it up, or I tried to portray myself better than I am. And then when you do that, and Jean did that a little bit, right? If you know something about coaching here and you have been with me, you have heard me talk a lot about the Enneagram, right? Now, Jean is, and then look it up later on, but Jean is a number, oh, that probably is too high, right? Is that too high, guys? Just not, and then I will change it and write down a little bit lower. Okay, this is the weekly trial and error where I need to write, but Jean is a number 7 on the Enneagram scale. Oh, that's normally most of the time. That's the enthusiast, right? But there's another one. I'm not sure if I can write this correctly, but let me try it first. I need to write it like this. Is that a number 2? Kind of a number 2, right? It's kind of a number 2. Yeah. So I have a lot of number 2 in me, and a number 2 in an Enneagram. If you don't know what it is, just don't get to be concerned about it, or send me a PM and a personal message, and I can tell you about it later. But the number 7 is a very enthusiastic about all kind of things. Show me something new, and I just let's do it, right? But the number 2 is a person that is very much driven by image. And so a lot of salespeople, good sales and marketing people are number 2. Great number to be, by the way, but none is better than the other. I'm just saying it to you. But they all have a little bit of a downside, right? Number 7, it's very hard to keep concentrated and focusing for a long time on the same thing. Yeah, I admit to that, and number 2s are driven a lot by image. So they are often thinking, what would that other person think about me? Now think about this, right? We all have a little bit of number 2 in ourselves. What would the other person think about me? And with Facebook, I mean, there's great stuff in social media, right? The reason why some of you are on the phone is actually basically because you found me on Facebook. And I didn't check about Facebook Live, but there are always people on Facebook Live. That would never happen if there's no social media. So social media, has really two things. But, one thing that Facebook did, and I don't know if you know how Facebook came into life, but but there was in the US, there was this program on television which was called Hot or Not. It was horrible. And there were just 4 guys sitting behind a table, and then just to be political correct, PC we call that, political correct, there was also one girl in the adjudicating or jury panel. And this has a lot of relevance. into what I'm telling you right now, because this is a little bit how life is, but they made it just horrible. And so those people, I don't know, it's probably an even number, 4 guys, 1 girl, to be political correct. They were sitting behind a table, nicely dressed. Sometimes they were kind of semi-celebrities in the US at least. And then, a girl, one by one, came walking on the stage. And the only thing that those judges had to say was hot or not. You went hot, you went to one side; not, you went to the other side. And I was appalled by it. Just looking at a person and you're hot or not, I could only imagine, seriously. In the beginning, I wanted to jump on them saying, ooh, that girl is pretty hot. Ooh, that girl's not so hot. And ooh, why don't they think that girl is hot? They should go to the other way. And they think, she's hot? Oh, hell no, she's not hot at all. Put her away, right? And before I know, I'm just a guy, but then I was thinking, wow, what must go through the minds of the girls that were sent to the hot side? They think, ooh, man, I'm better than the other girl. And the other girl were thinking like, not so hot, and it's all based on 4 guys and 1 girl. It's all based on outside judgment, right on national television. It was hugely popular, believe it or not, strange as that is. Actually, at the first phones that came out too, you could swipe it, hot, not, hot, not, hot, not, and it became hugely popular. And that concept became Facebook. Like or not like, in the first Facebook, there were only 2 things that you could do. Well, actually, there was only 1 thing you could do in a post, and it's either you liked it or you didn't. Right now you can do, LOL, and now you can do sad, and you could do angry. So they add, oh wow, we have 5 types of emotions. Great job. Right, Mr. Facebook, that we do, right? I always got the idea maybe we should do an opposite Facebook, right? Where we do all the negative emotions. I don't like you, right? Stuff like that. But as sad as that is, think about it. A lot of people and everyone who denies it, I would dare to talk to me right now, right? If you are on Facebook, if you're not on Facebook, you're probably on the good side. But if you're on Facebook and you say you are not influenced by the post you make and how many likes you get, I think you're not very honest, right? If you post a lot, but you say, oh, I really don't care how many people read it, I don't think you're honest. So that's how it is. I'm not saying you put a lot of value on it. That's something else. But I'm saying you're not honest. If you don't post at all, I'm with you, right? But I post and I look at it not every day anymore, as I did in the beginning, because I don't put so much value in it anymore. But we all know that there are people put a lot of value, how many likes you get, what the comments do to you, and you can blur out everything nowadays on Facebook. So you expose yourself to that question, am I good enough or not? Because if I don't know how my world is, but 2 likes in my world doesn't mean anything. I know people with 10,000 of followers on Instagram. I have 600. I'm a nobody, right? Well, that's so not true. I am somebody, by the way, and I'm somebody that believes that has something to tell. Otherwise, I would not be here with you on Facebook Live and on Zoom and stuff like that. But, check yourself out if that influences you, because that's one of the things that the world is doing to us. So the world is not really helping, or at least not social media is not helping us with that question, do I feel good enough? So I read the second sentence again. Am I embarrassed or ashamed about not succeeding or achieving more? So we might think about getting a diploma or a license or whatever, all that can be. But I'm really thinking also about simple things. It's like, are you feeling embarrassed that your post on Facebook might not get enough likes? And it's maybe because you're just honest, or you just tell. I mean, I know there's one on the phone at least, and she actually writes really well on Facebook, and I think she doesn't really care what other people think about it. She just want to post that, which is really great, right? Someone wrote, and do that too. If you already want to go with me on those questions, right? Someone wrote, yes for me also on both questions. That's already a good start to do that. There are actually 3 more questions, Irene. So thank you for answering that question. So I'm about to give you even a worse feeling that you probably already have. Are you distressed or unhappy when dwelling on your inadequacies? Right? Do I pronounce it correctly? Inadequacies? Yeah. Are you distressed and happy when dwelling on your inadequacy? Yeah, to be honest, that I don't do so often. but I do it, right? And I definitely did that in the past. Inadequacies is when you think you need to do something well, but you don't do it so well. So you focus more on the things that you don't do so well than the things that you do so well, right? So you have a whole list of all the things that you could do. Now, if you want to achieve anything in life, let's say you want to be a top dancer, of course your list of the things that you can do is a lot longer than the list that you can do already. That's just part of making progress. That's a good thing. There's nothing bad with it. But if you only look at the list, and dwell on it, oh, I can still not make 12 turns, and you forget that you can already make 10 spin turns, you might not be, you need to talk to your coach, right? So everyone knows how to that is, right? And so be there, be very honest to those questions. So maybe more yeses coming in right now. We go a little bit deeper in this. If you resign yourself because you feel less worth than someone else, or in general, you struggle with self-worth, that's definitely you set yourself up with not feeling good enough, right? Mindfulness practice, by the way, is a really good way to get out of that. And mindfulness practice is a larger field in coaching that I do with people, and it always deals with self-worth. Yeah, mindfulness. So think about it. If you have that, write me PM. I can send you a little bit more about that topic. But we all have that at time. I had that at time. I'm an abused victim, and one of the things that abuse victims often struggle with is that they don't feel good enough about themselves anymore. They have been used so long as just a piece of meat that they cannot see themselves any difference anymore. Yeah. So don't feel sorry about me, guys, because I think I worked myself way through it. But it's a serious thing and that has always to do with your self-worth, right? And I did, by the way, I don't know, Irene, I'm always talking to you in these kind of things. I did, by the way, a couple of months ago, I did a topic on being self-worth. What is the value that you put on yourself? So try to look that up if it's somewhere online. If not, I maybe need to repeat that. And then last but not least, and this is that I already say that I'll say yes to this one, right? Last but not least, but it's a big one, is hating the world that gives others advantages over you. Right? I sometimes do that, guys. I sometimes feel I work hard, I think I do everything right. I put everything aside to what I want to achieve, and I'm just not achieving it, or not in the level that I think I should get the rewards from what I'm doing. I do feel that sometimes, right? And that's also setting yourself up for not feeling good enough, right? So how do I deal with that? Of course, that's coming into the next section. Let me, there's a little chat, so I'm going to look that. So far, no, yes, no, no. Okay, that's good. That's good. Thank you for sharing that. If someone shares it to everyone, then I feel very free to read that out loud. Yeah. And then Albert says, like me, so far I had 5 questions, by the way. 5 questions. I go very quickly to them, but yeah, we have it more or less in some areas, and it could be that some people it's really hard with 1 year in one areas, and it could actually influence their whole life. And I think at where I'm today, I'm yes in every area, but I don't think it's that serious anymore, right? It's not that serious. Sometimes I'm angry. As you know, I'm a Christian, so I pray, and if I pray to God, I typically complain to him that I don't have yet what I think I should have had. So that's kind of where I am at. right? So quickly, those 5 questions. Angry about someone else's success. Yeah, have that someone. Embarrassed or ashamed because you didn't achieve what you wanted to achieve, or you made some mistakes, you know. Thirdly, are you unhappy about, you know, you're in your own inadequacies, you know, the things that you think you don't do so well. Resigning yourself for being less worthy, right? That's a bigger one, right? I don't have that so much, just maybe a little bit in the past, but not anymore. And then hating the world that gives others advantages over you, right? We come across that a lot. And hating is just a strong word, right? Maybe it's just, you know, why is someone else always more happy than me? How can it be that I'm never happy? Things like that. You know, people often in a depressed type of state could actually come across those type of emotions, right? All right, everyone is starting to fill it out right now. Thank you very much for doing that. You know, sharing is caring, but sharing definitely also helps to take the next step. So another thing to explore that is, how am I doing on time? Is what do you think that you actually deserve to get? And then just write it down. It's a journaling thing. What do you think that you actually deserve in life? Right? That's one thing. Um, and then what? And the third, and then those are the last question. But you don't have to answer them right now unless you have a really good answer, or you know the answer. I mean, every answer is good. What are you afraid you will never achieve? And I tell mine, right? I have a big dream, just a personal dream. It has nothing to do with reality or not. I have a personal dream to be back on the Blackpool dance floor. I don't know why. I always wanted that to be back. And one time in a workshop with Rich van Meij, if you know something about the dance world, then you know who he is and what type of workshop he has. We all had to admit one of those things that are maybe not so realistic anymore, but kind of still lingering inside you. And I say it to the world right now, right? So I'm not afraid to say, I'm a retired competitive dancer, but my heart sometimes still jumps to, and very secretly I think, why not? Why should I not do it? And then I think, it will never happen again. So yeah, it's not like it disturbs me every day, but if you go back to where my passion is, you might understand a little bit about it. And maybe you have those kind of things too. Share them with me or share them with the group. It's kind of helpful, but definitely write about it in your journal. And then last but not least, what decision in your life are you blaming for your present circumstances? Could be maybe a relationship you broke up. Could be maybe a job offer that you didn't take. Could be maybe an education that you never finished, right? Could maybe be that you gave someone else a bad feeling that you didn't want to do. It could be something way far worse. Just be honest, right? In the place we don't have judgment over others, it's only helpful to do that, right? Now, the apotheosis is always in the back end of my story, but a feeling not good enough. And that's kind of wrapping up all the tips that I saw about other coaches and psychologists that said, this is what you need to do if you don't feel good enough. But this is Sean's take on it, right? Monique, that's so that's so sweet. Let me correct it a little bit. Albert is yes, yes, no, no. Mine is still no, yes, no, no, no. Okay, cool. I like that a lot. Anyhow, so by the way, if you're on Facebook Live, you want to join the conversation in here, type something in your chat box there. You can do that too. And then next time, maybe you want to join us on Zoom, which is a little bit more interactive than right now. But here is the thing. My big question, and I help you to answer it right now in the last 15 minutes or so, is what are you actually measuring yourself against? And it could be a who or it could be a what, right? I just take, and if you get tired of it, type that too, by the way. If you get tired of me always taking examples from the sports and the athletes world, if I'm a beginner dancer or a beginner athlete in anything, and I measure myself against the top athletes, of my own results, then I will never be good enough. Does that make sense? If I measure myself to someone that's so far, that's different than have that as a goal or different than something that you aspire to be. You know, to aspire to be something or have that as a goal is something that has to do with movement. You move towards something that you aspire, right? Measurement has something to do with a status quo. I am here and I'm not good enough, right? But if I just see it as a movement, I am here, but I want to go there, no matter how slow, then it's a good feeling, right? It's just a flip of how your mindset is towards these things, right? So that's a big difference. So if you know the area you don't feel good enough in, then ask yourself, what is my reference then? Who tells that I'm not good enough, right? So, so that's a good thing. Now here again, social media, fantastic, right? If you go to YouTube, no, about nothing you cannot find a little tip in or a video in, or how do you call it? Maybe video is not the right word anymore. But anyhow, you know what I mean, right? So what Jean does a lot, dancer, dance instructor, and coach, I look a lot at those dancers. I, I I seldomly look at bad dancers because why would I, right? I only look at the good dancers. Guess what picture I have created in my own head? I've created a picture of seeing constantly people who are doing their trade on the highest level possible, and it's great to watch. But then at practice, I make a recording of my own dancing. And just by default that I have created in the back of my mind this already, how the top people doing in this field, I feel by comparison. And if I don't consciously put myself, because I look at it in the same format, right? When I was just practicing, I saw it in the mirror, not so bad. But now I see it myself in the same format, a video recording, and with the video recordings that I've seen from others all over and over again. And so in myself, I created a reference or a context, right? That is not matching with what I should measure myself with. I can only measure myself to where I was before. So if I go back to the same video where I did the same movement from 2 days before, and then I can see, hey, I made some progress. I can guarantee you, if you practice with any trade that you do, let's say you have to do a business presentation, and you saw the top people doing a business presentation, that's not a good measurement. That's a good measurement to see where you want to go to. But if you want to see you made some progress, you better look at a video that you had from the week before when you did the same presentation, or the month or the year before. And that's a much more better comparison, right? So that creates by far faster that you actually feel good enough, because feeling good enough is helps you to get out of feeling not good enough, by the way, is see that you make progression towards the goal that you have set for yourself. And that, by the way, people, could be as high as you want. I don't care if you put the highest goal there. There is nothing wrong with having a super high goal. There's only something wrong with if you set a goal and then at the same time say, oh, I will never make it. Yeah, that doesn't help you at all, right? So some people say you need to have realistic goals. I said, no, don't set your goals as ambitious and as unrealistic as you want. Just go have a healthy attitude how you go at it, right? Does that make sense? So if you constantly look at yourself, let's say I have a goal where I want to be in 5 years' time. Well, 5 is also one of those numbers that is hard to write, but I'm trying it. Is this a 5? Kind of a 5, right? It's a kind of a 5. Yeah, in 5 years' time. And I measure myself every day. If I'm close to this 5-year time in 2025, man, within 2 months, I will be so frustrated. What I need to do, of course, is where do I want to be in 2 years' time? Where do I want to be in 1 year's time? Where I want to be in 2 months' time? And then come to a goal that is achievable. And that's how you can feel that you are, good enough, right? So that's one thing. That's one. Does that make a lot of sense? Is that, no to what yourself, yeah, that's Monique, right? The same thing. I always try to be better than the last time. Now, does that always work? Not always, but most of the time it does, right? And better is a relative thing, but one little bit better than the last time is already good enough, right? If you expect yourself to be again measured to a world champion compared to what you did the last time, you will stay in that unsatisfactory, not good enough state all the time. It's much better to measure yourself with yourself where you were, linked to a goal that could be very far off. That's pretty gay. Yeah, so I like that. Yeah, I like what people wrote here. I measure myself against my best effort. Therefore, I'm not putting in my best effort 100%. Uh-huh. And therefore, I feel not good enough. Yeah, see, that is a little bit too ambitious sometimes in a different sense, right? Because, the person who wrote this, you can read it back, by the way, has things like, oh, I'm doing this already 2 years. I expected myself to be better now. I said to her, says who? It's better than this. Could you have been better? Yeah, but be honest, right? How many hours did you put in it? How many real hours did you put in it? Sometimes we also measure ourselves not only with the wrong thing, but we are not realistic of the input we had on the things that we want to achieve, right? So I can tell you an example of myself, right? I've always been a little bit of a bad turner. I know how to teach people how to turn really well, but myself, not the best turner in the field at all. And my excuse was, Donnie Burns was a horrible turner too, so who cares? He became 14 times world champion. But I was complaining at the same time to myself, oh man, I'm such a bad turner. But then I was literally following in my practice, how much time do I spend on turning? Almost zero. And the reason why, when I was practicing in front of other people, I was already ashamed that I would not turn as good as the other people did. And hence, I did double think to myself. I was ashamed of the things that I didn't do well. Hence, I didn't dare to practice them in front of other people. But in my mind, I kept complaining of it. So if I go to a competition, guess what I see? Just guess, you can talk to me, but so I just give you a pause, right? Guess, I only saw people turning like maniacs, right? That's the only thing I saw. Is, oh, that guy can turn. That was kept until I thought, you know what? Let me get at it. Yeah, let me just stop whining and put in the time to actually learn at least some decent turn. Now, I'm not saying that I'm great at it right now, but I dare to say that I'm pretty decent at it right now because I put some time in it, right? So that's another thing that you should do. So who believes, by the way, this is, my next phase, who believes that we are all uniquely created? Just, there are enough people online. Just say yes, 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 or no, no, no. Yeah? I want to see it coming right now. If Irene follows Facebook Live, then we could do this. So who believes that we are in some way or fashion are uniquely created? I only see one yes. Does that mean that the other people think it's not true? Which is fine, by the way. It's fine. Yeah? Oh, so far, only Irene believes that we are all uniquely created. Yeah. Oh, yes and yes. Yes. More yeses. I think secretly everyone believes that with a few exceptions here and there. Right? Yeah, which is super important in these things. I did once a workshop a few years ago, and I snapped everyone out being not good enough. If you are uniquely created, that means that you have to have something so uniquely you. Irene is so uniquely Irene. Albert is so uniquely Albert. Monique is all, So Albert, you would never be like me, thank God, and I will never be like you, thank God too, right? We are uniquely ourselves, and that makes it so special. So by default, if we keep comparing ourselves with someone else that has a different type of uniquely you, we always fall short. Does that make sense? Yeah. So one way to really, really long term, snap yourself out of the fact, am I good enough, is finding what that uniqueness is and know how to describe that, if only for yourself. Yeah, and it took me a while to see how important that is. And it's not to pump yourself up and get a big chest and say, "Ooh, look me being so uniquely me," right? No, it's just knowing. Um, it's just knowing where you feel that you're good at, right? What is your unique you? I kind of lost connection of my Bluetooth, so that's going to be challenging because I don't know how to manage my computer anymore. Um, Anyhow, let me solve this little technical issue while I'm talking. It requires a screwdriver. Yeah. So does that make sense? It will be one of those days where I'm challenged with a couple of things, but think about this. Who believes that if you're uniquely you, you must have a unique gift. Doesn't that make sense? Right? And maybe you feel you haven't brought that to the world yet. Now, last week I said actually it was Sunday. If you don't have brought your unique gift to the world yet, you might think, yeah, but I'm already 40, or yes, I'm already 35, or yes, I'm already 24. It's way too late to do that anyhow. You know, yes, true. You're right. Anything that you want to do, the best way to start is, Jasmine and I said it last week, is 10 years ago, right? But the second best way time to start in anything is actually today. So you can start today and try to find your unique gift. You definitely can. I did it a few years ago. So sorry guys, but my Bluetooth connection failed on me. So I'm coming a little bit closer to your screen. Um, and that's where the true solution is, right? There are a lot of tips that you can read yourself on the internet, but the true solution of feeling not good enough is thinking about a few things, right? First of all, do we feel that we are all in some way or fashion unique, in our own self? And it could be uniquely created by whomever you think created us, right? Or maybe, yeah, but we are unique. And that's a good thing. Secondly, is if we are unique, then you have something unique to offer. We might not have found what it is, like a lot of people in life. And if you already do, that is fantastic, right? That is fantastic. And by going out in the world, and it doesn't have to be in front of a big audience like I chose to do. That's just a choice, right? That doesn't make me better than anyone else. It could be just in your own family. It could be in your own community. You could be uniquely you in whatever you are. And one of the things that, at least, and it sounds like a commercial, that I do is to help people find that uniquely you, right? Some people call that a purpose. Other people call it the gift. Whatever name you want to give to it, that's all good and well. And once you really feel that is me, all comparisons cease to exist, right? I'm a unique dancer and a unique dance teacher in the way how I teach, right? Doesn't mean that someone else cannot be better in another field, right? Is that good enough to become world champion in something? Maybe not, but that's a measurement by default of other people. And it's my choice to go to a competition and expose myself to that type of measurement. Now, we can help you to, with your mindset, to deal with these things. But I've looked at hundreds, so not thousands of videos of my students. And and some people can testify that I always find things to improve, but I also find always things that has been improved compared to the last video. Does that make sense? I have that eye to do that, and that always helps you to feel better about yourself. Now, if we go into the arena of business, and I'm a small business owner, and I measure myself to big business owners like Richard Branson or other people, yeah, by measurement of their bank account, or at least the money that they have on the bank account, I fail hopelessly. But am I honest? Did I want to become a billionaire? Actually not. I want to be able to provide for my family. And there was a time that I couldn't even do that. And there was a time that I feel really bad about that. But, there were circumstances in which I couldn't help myself, but I didn't let myself measured by my circumstances. I reacted different to the circumstances and came to another point in life. Does that make sense? So yeah. um, what else do I hear, right? Most of the time, the people that don't feel good enough measure themselves too much with other people. That's the honest truth, right? And don't spend enough time to look at themselves in a positive way. What is it actually that I have to offer? So that word offer to the world, meaning to someone else, is something that is your homework for today. What is it that Monique, what is it that Albert, what is it that Jasmine, what is it that Danielle, I don't know who else is on the phone, by the way, has to offer to other people? Don't think about, but no one wants to have that gift. Trust me, what you have to offer, there are always people who need that. If we are uniquely created, there has to be a reason why that is. There has to be a reason that we all can make one big jigsaw puzzle that fits right together. What we sometimes try to do is be the same jigsaw piece as someone else is. And you leave a hole when you do that in that jigsaw puzzle. Does that make sense? Do you get that picture? We all, no, maybe there are people who are a little bit a bigger piece. So what, right? Without your piece, it will never be a complete jigsaw puzzle. It goes wrong when I want to be exactly that same piece as someone else's. And the questions I ask you all allude a little bit toward the direction that we honestly all have that a little bit in our mind. But when I saw that I have something unique to give, I don't know. I didn't know if someone needed that. I really did not know. I just had that belief that at least there must be someone that needed that. My Bluetooth is back online. Then it actually became a lot better. And just one thing to do is I wrote a book. I did not know that that would become a bestseller. I was hoping for it, but when it becomes a bestseller, it means that thousands of people, literally thousands of people, wanted to read what I wrote. And maybe it was just based on the title and they never read it at all, that I don't know. So I could build up an insecurity there, but I built a lot of confidence that what I had to offer was at least good enough for some people. Is it good enough for the people that I want to be good enough to is another question. And that's sometimes where we go wrong too. Sometimes we want to reach a certain audience that is not my audience. With a unique gift, you need to find a unique audience. If it has something to do with audience, right? It's not always true either. Yeah, and it could be, I think, my mom is a really good example. My mom is someone with almost with zero social media exposure except for the pictures that we put online, right? She does not even know what Facebook is, especially right now because she has Alzheimer, but also in her, in her life when she did not have Alzheimer, she had her own social circle, which was family and some friends, relatively small if you think about it, but she had a lot of unique gifts. She could tie people together in a way that no one else could. She could cook for families the way that she could never could. She never thought about these things, right? So here is where I want to end this little, am I good enough? Sometimes I came home to my mom and I came with all these big problems that I was depressed or didn't make my world champions or whatever it was. And then my mom's answer often was this. And she said, Jean, actually, I don't know about all these problems that you're in, but what I do know is how to cook your favorite meal. Shall I do that for you? And then she did that. And when I was eating that meal, a lot of my problems became a lot smaller or went completely away. It was so simple, but it was so good for me just to be home in my mom's arms, well, sometimes at my mom's dining table. And it was not always my favorite meal, just to just cook something or heated something up that she had. But do you see how that gift worked from her to me? You know, she didn't think, she admitted immediately that she could not help me in the area that I think I had my problems with, and for where I go to advice to my mom. On the other hand, I also often went to my dad for advice, but I never liked his answer. So I stopped going there. And then my dad got angry if I didn't follow up his answer. So we always ended up with an argument. So, well, it's not so smart of me, right? My mom always had the best answer, right? So unique gift, right? If you know your unique gift and you want to share it with us, do that, right? If not, then then um, then we can help you through it, right? Journal about it. That's always a good thing. If you expected a slightly different answer on the question, am I good enough? Then let me know that too, and we'll spend a little bit more time in it. It's a relatively large topic, but I hope we made a good start of answering it today. Yeah. Any questions or remark? Did I see some new chats in the inbox? We're using it better and better. Yes. Albert states he is very special. Yeah, that is so true. Albert, you are very special. Yes, we are uniquely created. Oh dear. I don't know what that means. Oh dear. But yes, we are uniquely created. That is so true. Welcome, Sandra. I didn't see you were joining the conversation, but that was really good. My unique gift is to love, trust, and connect emotionally with people and connecting people. Jasmine writes that. And I can only, if you don't know Jasmine, I would definitely say reach out to her. And she would love to connect, because that's one of her unique gift, is to connect with as many people as she can connect with. So if you haven't her as friend on Facebook or something like that, do it right now. Say, hey, I've seen you a few times now on the place. It is time that we become Facebook friends or something else. Do that. And Jasmine likes that. I think Jasmine gift is, I'm probably one of the people that tells her that the most. I think her gift is in networking and connecting people. And the beauty thing with Jasmine is she doesn't keep those connections for herself. If she finds someone that she thinks is really special, very often she calls me or sends me a message and say, I met someone so special, you should meet him too. Right? So she loves to share that, which I think is a great gift, right? That's definitely not me. Sometimes I think, wow, this person is so special. I keep her or him completely for me, right? Don't we have that all, right? So, but typically, that's why I hope okay, that I put you on the spotlight today, Jasmine. Typically, you recognize your gift if you immediately want to share it with someone else. If it is something that you want to treasure, there's nothing bad with it, right? You found a great recipe. You say, I want to impress other people by cooking it, right? Then you want to treasure it. That's typically not your gift. Your gift is truly immediately if you know where to share it. Monique, if I can mention you, if you taste something really good and you have been a good restaurant, the first thing that Monique does is let's put that and share that with other people. You should eat there too. Unique gift in that area. So that's how you recognize your unique gift. That's a whole topic in itself. Maybe that is something for another session, is how do you recognize your unique gift? Sandra, I truly do not know. I know I can plan a great party. Well, that's not a bad gift, Sandra, as long as you invite us. Still trying to figure out what my gift is. I love to teach swimming, teaching, Jasmine. That is right on. Yeah, the things that we're good at, let me just look at the clock. We're hitting 1 o'clock really fast here in Dallas, so we're running up. The things that we're good at doesn't always mean that those are our gift, right? It could be our gifts, but it doesn't always have to be. A few months ago or a few sessions ago, actually, I had a whole topic on that. So that's not always the case. So that could be a lifelong search, Sandra, to what our true gift is. But don't get discouraged, right? There are really good ways to find it out. I made it my purpose to do that with people, find where they are, and then craft something of some sort of a life where that unique gift can be used in either business or just, in another way of life. If you want to know about that, let me know that too, right? So give me some comments or send them in a PM to me what you thought about today's session. If I went too far left and right, then I apologize. If I stayed on target and you got something out of it, then I'm super happy. Come back to us next week in the Place Live. We have a couple of things I want to say to you as well. Tomorrow, if you're in the Dallas Metroplex, well, you have to be in Fort Worth Metroplex, and if you don't know where that is, then forget it, right? But Fort Worth is a place very close to Dallas, and we do the pop-up live. So you will see me speaking at a cycle bar in Fort Worth, and there is a free cycle class. Go there if you want to experience what it is. That starts at 6:45, and an hour later I will talk and I will talk about how to find your unique self. So that's very close to the topic we talked about today. So that's it. If you are online and you did not receive our first The Place newsletter, just send us a personal message real quick, because then you're not on the email list. And in that newsletter, we will actually post the videos. We will post other things too, right? Do know that everything that we do on The Place, at least the online thing, is for free, and it will always be for free. But we do it in support of a nonprofit organization, which is called a Dancers Movement to Stop Sexual Abuse. You can read about that too in the newsletter. I hope you do. That would give us a lot of pride, and we appreciate that a lot. So that's why we do this. If there's any topic you want to address in the future, let us know that too. Right? This was Jean from The Place. If you are with me on Zoom, you can stay a little bit longer if you want to for the after discussion or the debrief. And if you were on Facebook Live, then I'll say to you, I'll see you next week.